245 people, one store, one pub, and a 6-day boat ride to the nearest hospital. This is not a movie set. This is real life right now on a tiny volcanic island in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. No airport has ever been built here. No airplane has ever landed. And when the entire population was once forced to evacuate to England, most of them chose to come back to this rock. Why would anyone give up modern comfort for this? Stay with me, because the answer is stranger and more beautiful than you'd expect. This place is called Tristan da Cunha, and by almost every measure, it holds the record for the most remote inhabited island on Earth. It sits roughly halfway between South Africa and South America, over 1,500 miles from its nearest inhabited neighbor, NPR, a place called St. Helena. If you wanted to visit from the United States, you'd fly 15 hours to Cape Town, South Africa. Then you'd board a fishing boat or research ship for a 6 or 7 day crossing through some of the roughest seas on the planet. There is no other way in. No runway exists because the terrain is too rocky and too steep. So this island survives entirely on ships, and only about 9 boat visits reach it each year. Today.com. Let's talk geography for a second because it explains everything else. Tristan da Cunha is actually not a single island, but an archipelago, cerebro-digital, of 6 volcanic islands. Only the main island is inhabited. Scientists say these islands formed from ancient volcanic activity linked to the breakup of a giant supercontinent that existed hundreds of millions of years ago. The main island is dominated by an active volcano called Queen Mary's Peak, rising over 2,000 meters into the clouds. There are no beaches here, no palm trees. Instead, you get green cliffs, cold wind, and potato fields that look more like Scotland than the tropics. So how did anyone end up living in one of the loneliest places on the map? The story starts with Napoleon Bonaparte. After his defeat in 1815, the British exiled him to nearby St. Helena. Worried the French might try to rescue him using Tristan da Cunha as a hideout, Britain sent a military garrison to occupy the island. Most soldiers eventually left. But one man, a Scottish corporal named William Glass, asked to stay behind with his wife and children. He wasn't alone for long. Over the following decades, shipwrecked sailors, American whalers, and Italian castaways all found their way to this tiny piece of land, and many of them decided to stay for good. Here is where the story gets genuinely wild. Because of that small founding group, today's islanders descend from just 7 original surnames: Glass, Green, Hagen, Lavarello, Repetto, Rogers, and Swain. Cerebro-digital. Walk down the only street on the island, and nearly everyone you meet shares one of those 7 last names. Marriages between distant cousins have happened for generations simply because the dating pool is so small. Researchers have documented some resulting health issues like higher rates of asthma and glaucoma linked to this limited gene pool. It's one of the most unique human communities on the planet, and geneticists have actually studied its DNA to trace exactly which ships and which sailors contributed to the bloodline. Now let's talk about daily life, because this is where the documentary really comes alive. The entire population lives in one single village, humorously named Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, after a royal visit in 1867. It has 1 police station with 1 officer, 1 post office, 1 supermarket, 1 cafe, and 1 pub, Today.com, called the Albatross Bar. There are no traffic lights, no suburbs. The island even has what's considered the world's most remote bus service, Island Guru, which shuttles retirees to the community potato fields, still called the Patches. Land here isn't privately owned the way we understand it. Farming and fishing follow a system of shared resources that traces back to William Glass's original vision of an equal, self-sufficient community. Money works differently too. Tristan da Cunha uses British pounds, but there's no bank, no ATM, and no card readers anywhere. It's a cash-only economy. Electricity comes from diesel generators and wind turbines. Drinking water is collected from natural springs and rainfall. And the island's biggest export, the thing that actually funds public services, is lobster. Local fishermen catch and process rock lobster that gets shipped around the world, making it the economic backbone of this tiny nation. But isolation here isn't just inconvenient. It can be dangerous. In 1961, the volcano suddenly erupted right next to the settlement. The entire population, over 260 people, had to evacuate by open boat and were eventually resettled in England. For the first time in their lives, most islanders experienced cities, supermarkets, and crowded streets. And according to those who were there, it was deeply uncomfortable. 2 years later, when scientists declared the island safe, a vote was taken. An overwhelming majority chose to sail back home and rebuild their village from scratch. Isolation, it turns out, wasn't something they were trapped in. It was something they'd chosen. That kind of self-reliance showed up again more recently. When COVID-19 spread across the globe in 2020, Tristan da Cunha simply closed its only entry point, the harbor, and recorded 0 community cases. While the rest of the world went into lockdown, life in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas continued almost completely normal. The wildlife here deserves its own documentary. 2 of the smaller islands in this archipelago, Gough and Inaccessible, are recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, largely because of their extraordinary seabird populations. Millions of shearwaters and albatrosses nest here. Hundreds of thousands of rockhopper penguins gather along the coastlines. And in the surrounding waters, a 2017 expedition backed by National Geographic's Pristine Seas project found more blue sharks here than at almost any other location researchers had ever studied. A strong sign that this remote ocean has become a genuine refuge for endangered marine life. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? Tristan da Cunha proves that isolation doesn't have to mean deprivation. For nearly 2 centuries, a tiny group of families has built a functioning, self-sufficient society on one of the harshest, most remote scraps of land on Earth. And when given the chance to leave for good, they chose to come home instead. In a world where most of us are constantly connected, endlessly reachable, and rarely alone, there's something genuinely striking about a community that still runs on tides, seasons, and the arrival of a single ship. Would you ever trade modern convenience for a life this isolated? Let me know in the comments. And if this journey to the edge of the map fascinated you, hit subscribe, because there are far stranger places on this planet still waiting to be explored.